Hello whiskey lovers and welcome to another one of Mark's Whiskey Ramblings. On location, I'm in Meerbeke, close to Ninove, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of Aalst if you're familiar with Belgium. Anyway, I am here at Anthony Murray's shop. Anthony Murray, a friend of mine who owns this shop, and now Anthony Murray, the name itself already tells us quite a bit, right? Because his name is Anthony, right? But it now says Anthony Murray. Now, why is that? That tells us two things. Anthony loves Arran, the whiskey from the Isle of Arran, from the Lochlanza distillery, and Murray because he's in love with Glen Murray single malt as well. You could say that Arran and Glen Murray are for Anthony what, for example, Auchentoshen and Kalila are for me. Anyway, I was invited to his little shop here in Meerbeke, and this is where he also created or established the Wasted Wolf. Now that in itself is a funny name. Established in 2021, the Wasted Wolf is his label under which he bottles independently single casks that he himself simply loves. And I was invited here to discover 3 of those, and that's what I would like to discuss in this Whiskey Rambling. Now when you come to visit the Wasted Wolf bar here, I feel like a kid in a candy store, right? There's almost 1,000 bottles open here. So whenever you visit and you want to give something a go, you just tell Anthony what you like and he will just be able to take something from the bar and he will find a whiskey that suits your palate. But I'm not here to try these 1,000 whiskeys. No, I'm here for work. I'm here to discover the 3 releases that he has done under his new label, The Wasted Wolf. That's what we will be trying today. And let me start by introducing them. We have 3 single casks, but not all of them are from Scotland. There's a bit of a surprise in there as well. We've got 2 from Scotland and 1 from somewhere completely different, but we will taste them one by one. Let's begin with the first one. This one, a Glen Murray. And now this Glen Murray is 8 years old and bottled at 58% ABV. Now, the funny thing is, it says on the label, Lossy Barrel Surfing. And that is actually a tongue-in-cheek reference to that time when the River Lossy actually flooded. And now Glen Murray had a bit of, a whole stack of empty casks outside of their distillery, and those were swept away in the flood. That's Lossy Barrel Surfing. So we have here a Glen Murray, and I'm not going to open this beautiful, pristine bottle. No, I have an open bottle at hand. 58%, like I said. And this is actually from a quarter cask, if I'm not mistaken. Have to take another peek. A Sherry Octave, a Oloroso Sherry Octave indeed. Wow, 61 bottles, 8 years old, 58% ABV. And now the color is obviously from that Oloroso Octave, a nice, dark, full bronze, beautiful. Clings to the glass, which reveals that this is going to be a full-bodied malt. Right, on the nose. Sweet and spicy, just like you would expect from an Oloroso Octave. Sweet and spicy, and I get these plums and raisins. But the funny thing is, and which is actually a good thing, is that the DNA of Glen Murray is actually still discernible. So the Sherry Octave, while clearly a very active cask, has not overpowered or erased the distillery character, in my opinion, on the palate. Full-bodied, very sweet indeed, with a beautiful spicy edge in there. I again get all the notes that you would expect from a Sherry Octave, which means I get apricot pie, I get raisins, I get some sultanas as well, I get some dark oranges, or maybe I should say candied orange peel in there as well. And then there's a slight bitterness like from a walnut skin, but not overpowering. And again, this is 58%, but I do not feel the need at all to add any water. This is what I would call a beautifully balanced single malt on the finish. Lingers nicely, remains spicy, dark and sweet until the death. And in my opinion, this is actually a lovely, despite the young age, a lovely, lovely balanced Glen Murray single malt. But we have another whiskey to discover, and it's also a Scotch. But this time we're going to Campbelltown. Follow me. Right, this is number 2 from Campbelltown, like I said, and this is the Kintyre Ghost Busting. It has something to do with the distillery manager not being happy, killing himself, and now wandering around as a ghost inside the distillery. That's all I can say about it. And I can also add that this is not Springbank. Just you do the math. Anyway, what I would like to try now is this this Kintyre blended malt Scotch whiskey, 9 years old, and this is from a refill bourbon barrel. Refill bourbon hogshead, excuse me. And this is bottled at 57.3% ABV. Again, I'm going to leave this bottle intact, and I have an open bottle right here of the same stuff. This, as it's from a bourbon barrel, you can immediately notice this by the color of the dram, because this is a lot lighter than what we just had. The Glen Murray was from a sherry octave, dark, almost bronze colored. This is a bright golden, almost, well, actually light golden, in fact. And that's, of course, because this is from a refill bourbon hogshead. A Campbelltown whiskey, 9 years old, funky on the nose. Did I just say funky? I did, didn't I? And that's because I'm already anticipating it a little bit. And I have to be honest, this distillery for me is a difficult one. Hit or miss, basically. And if I'm very honest, mostly miss. So whenever I find a, I was going to say the name, but I shouldn't, I will not. But whenever I find a malt from this distillery, I'm always a bit apprehensive, because for me they are hit or miss. But in this case, the nose is a hit. Because in this case, I get these, I do get some funky notes, but first of all, I get white fruit. I get apples, a hint of pears, but I also get a bit of lime in there as well. And then some limestone and chalk. You know, gyprock, what you use for building quickly, walls, big, you know what I mean, gyprock, right? You have that there as well. That's what I'm getting here as well. This is very mineral, if I can put it like that. It's typical for the house style, but in this case, quite likable. It's not as funky as this often can be, right on the palate. The arrival is quite sturdy. 57.3% is not to be trifled with. But once your saliva glands do what they have to do, this malt settles nicely on your palate, offering, again, notes of white fruit, but again, those chalky notes, those papery notes, let me put it that way. I wouldn't call it cardboard, but I do get some, like sipping on or nibbling on a paper ticket or something like that. And then the lime comes in as well. It evolves towards white grapefruit, in fact, not soury, but a bit zesty, a bit white pepper and some licorice at the back. But again, a nice, not so funky malt. I'm used to these type of malts being funkier, so this is on the safe side of funky, if you ask me, and that makes this quite likable indeed on the finish then. If this malt was a card deck, this would be the trump. The finish is the trump. The finish is long, satisfying. The white fruit returns, the spices linger, but this one keeps on giving. It keeps on coming in layers and layers and layers. This is a very long and satisfying finish indeed. Well, I can put this on the hit list of this distillery. So this is quite a nice, I'm not going to say it, a quite nice Kintyre, what's it say, ghost-busting release indeed. A beautiful Campbelltown malt, if ever there was one. But like I said, we have a third release to discuss. And for that one, we have to go all the way across the Mediterranean Sea. We are going to Israel. And when I say Israel, more to the point, I mean Tel Aviv. And Tel Aviv, of course, and I'm talking about the Milk and Honey Distillery. And now this is a 4 years old only, but as you know, Tel Aviv, the climate over there is like, you know, a 4 years old Israeli whiskey can compare itself to a 12 years old Scottish whiskey. Or can it? Let's find out. This is a 4 years old and this is bottled at 59.8% ABV. So not for the faint-hearted. We might need some water. Anyway, it is a Chardonnay barrique. And Chardonnay is obviously that French wine. So, a French wine cask for an Israeli whiskey. Interesting. Now, again, I'm not touching this bottle. I'm using the open bottle that Anthony has here for his patrons. Beautiful color, and that's of course due to the fact that this matured on a wine cask. Oh, look, will you look at that? This is almost mahogany. This is a dark bronze to mahogany. Beautiful, beautiful indeed, and clings to the glass. Well, it's high ABV, of course, but still, this is going to be a full-bodied malt, and maybe, just maybe, we might need some water. Let's find out. Because on the nose, this is, to be honest, at first it seems a bit closed. I do get some hints of dark fruit and some fortified wine, some port wine maybe, but not much else. It's the alcohol is actually blocking the other aromas, in my opinion, on the palate. Sturdy arrival. Red fruit. Loads of spices now. I get cloves. I get nutmeg. I get some cinnamon, in fact. Red fruit is there. Also some candied citrus fruits. Licorice. A bit of dark spicy notes. It's nice, but I do believe I'm going to be adding some water in a minute. Let me just get on the finish there. The undiluted finish is long, spicy, powerful, sturdy. But let's be smart about this and add just a few drops of water and see what that does to this malt. Don't overdo it. Just a few drops to make sure that the ABV comes down a bit. Not too much, but still. Let's swing it around, so for the integration. Right. Now, it's a swimmer. Because on the nose, now I do get all these, I can actually discern the red fruity notes. Strawberries, red currants, some blueberries as well. This is nice. And again, that touch of fortified wine is in there. Beautiful. I actually like the nose better with water on the palate. It's still powerful, but it has not lost any of its complexity. I still get all these beautiful dark fruity notes, red fruity notes. It's like a stew of red fruit. And all those spices are there as well. I still get the nutmeg, the cloves, the cinnamon. It's a bit drying now, towards the end. But to be honest, I prefer this with just a few drops of water on the finish. That finish is long, drying, very spicy indeed. And it just keeps on going. But it's very spicy indeed. I'm actually looking for a glass of water after this. So, yeah, this Israeli malt, only 4 years old on a Chardonnay barrique, is quite lovely, but quite powerful. But luckily, a swimmer. So you can add a bit of water. And then, if you add some water, you have more. What's not to like? Yeah, this is the Israeli single malt from the Wasted Wolf. High ABV, a wine cask, but actually quite balanced, spicy, and very powerful. We're almost there. Wow. And that, my friends, is all for this Whiskey Rambling in this beautiful little shop, the little bar, the Wasted Wolf in Meerbeke, close to Ninove, which is somewhere between Brussels and Alost, whatever. Doesn't really matter. But we've tried their three independent bottlings. We had a Glen Murray, a beautiful Glen Murray, in fact. Then we had a Campbelltown malt, which will not be named and was very much to my liking. And lastly, we tried a Tel Aviv, an Israeli single malt. I would like to give a huge shout out to my friend Anthony for inviting me and allowing me to try these beautiful bottles. And I would like to congratulate him on the cask selections because they were all very fine indeed. And that's all for this Whisky Rambling, and I hope to see you at one of Mark's Whisky Ramblings real soon. And until then, may the malt be with you. Bye-bye.